evening, everybody. Welcome to Pub Table Racers. Today is December 21st, 2021, and it is also known as Warren Brosell Day.
Why is that?
Because it's the shortest day of the year.
Okay, perfect. I can handle it.
Winter solstice.
You got to remember, I've been short all my
I
life.
understand.
Those
No,
are
I
great
know.
jokes. No, all my life.
All right. First of all, welcome. Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year. Because next show will be 2 weeks from tonight. We appreciate it. Warren, why do we have this lovely bucket of beer in front of
We
us?
have a bucket of beer because we like to sit around, talk about racing, and drink beer.
Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Happy holidays, my friend.
Happy holidays.
We're coming up on 2 years in February.
I know, it's awesome.
I needed that.
So you want me to explain? We do drink Miller Lite in honor of our hero, Davey Allison.
Miller High Life. Yep.
Miller High. Did I say Miller Lite?
Yeah, because you work.
Do you know why? Because I got it in the keg
You
right
got
now.
the kids, right? All right, so tonight's show, we are coming to you live from the Rapid Removal Studios. Give Darren a call there, 704-507-7833. And you need it removed, construction, deconstruction,
Right.
Stuff you want to get rid of.
Hoarding, whatever.
He's the guy to call. He'll roll it on out there. 20-yard containers on soft tires, won't tear up your lawn. And he's doing a great business, and we appreciate his support. Also, behind you, Warren, you have...
RacingJunk.com.
Yep, and buy, sell, trade, anything that has wheels or involves wheels, give them a call. I met with them at PRI,
Nice.
and they do these really nice banners for us. And he says, "What more can we do for you?" I go, "It's fine by us. We appreciate it."
Yeah.
So, I don't know about late Christmas presents, but get yourself something after the holidays. If you don't get what you want, Racing Junk will have it.
Well, they'll have it.
That's it. And tell your relatives.
Motorcycle, snowmobile, whatever.
That's it. Okay, tonight's show. Oh, real quick. The Highway 3 reunion, touch upon that real quick. We had about 75 of us from Dale Earnhardt Incorporated got together at the Old Armor Beer Company in Kannapolis, and it was great to see everybody.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Our girlfriend Geraldine said one word that summed it up. I can tell there's a great camaraderie.
Lot of good people. I'm going to personally thank Slugger Labby
Yep.
and Jeff Clark
Yep.
for helping us with the beer tab.
Right, so we... So back in the day, we were sponsored by Budweiser, and we used to be known to have a few of beers, and nothing's changed because I did the math. We drank $900 worth of beer in 3.5 hours.
75 people.
75 people drank that many. So let's say it was average out between 5 and 6,000 beer, which was craft beer, so I did 5.5, divided it. That's 163.63 beers that were washed down, but we needed it because we were telling so much BS and lies. Fair enough?
True.
So we're going to do it again next year, maybe mid-January, but thanks to everybody that came out. Great response, and if you weren't there, don't worry, we talked about your ass. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. We are not going to screw around tonight. We've been waiting for over a year to get this guy on. He's America's crew chief, broadcaster with Fox Sports for NASCAR. Led this guy behind us to his only Daytona 500 win. Worked with Davey Allison. What do you say? Ladies and gentlemen, Larry McReynolds, Larry Mack. Coming right up, scoot up. I don't even need this anymore. Okay, notebook, don't need it.
All right.
There you go. And he sees the bucket of beer. We like him. He says, "Hey, you mind if I have one of those?" We go, "We totally." He says, "Larry, thank you so much for finally coming on."
Thank you.
We
Cheers.
appreciate it.
No,
Our
thank
pleasure.
y'all.
Pleasure.
When I saw the set, you were cutting on Warren, and I said, I wonder who sits in the chair with the signage. And then I realized it had to be Warren, because where you see the signage stuff.
No one's going to
I
see
can put a
that.
pennant right here, a
Right.
little Larry Mack.
Plus, I got to do the Vanna thing. I do the Vanna thing.
7 years of college right there.
Not me.
First of all, thanks for your schedule. We know is insane, and we appreciate you taking the time. We finally made it work out. First of all, a lot of people know what you did. Where did you get your actual start in racing?
It might be one of the more bizarre stories because I'm from Birmingham, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I was an only child. No racing background whatsoever.
No.
My mom and
Okay.
dad, no race fan, nothing. But my aunt, my mom's sister, who was really more like a sister to me because she was only 10 years older. She was the baby of the family by a long shot. Her and my grandfather, my mom's dad, they were a little bit of race fans. And so every Friday night, the racetrack, BIR, was just about a 15-minute walk down the hill from their house. Every Friday night, the three of us would go down there and watch the local short track on Friday night.
And the noise is what attracted you to go?
them invite me to go, and
And-
paying my ways what attracted me to go.
And about how old are you when this is going on?
I want to say probably just starting high school.
Okay,
So I want
okay.
to say maybe 13, 14, right in there.
Got it.
So my aunt eventually got married, and her husband was a race fan too, and he was a mechanic. So then the four of us would go every Friday night. And my aunt was a little bit of a hot rodder. She didn't have a problem going fast in cars and all. So this one particular night, again, I was probably a sophomore or junior in high school, 15, 16, whatever years old. They started this brand new division called a street stock hobby division. It was as stock a race car as you could even think about building. A one sheet of rules. You pulled the windows out, you pulled the interior out, you put a few roll bars in, you put the fuel tank up in the trunk, you could do a little bit of work on the suspension and engine, put a number on it, you had a race car. So this first night that they had the division, my aunt looked at my husband and said, I could do that. Well, he kind of chuckled and said, well, I tell you what, you go out and find you some sponsors. We'll build you a race car. Well, I'm sure a lot with her being a female in a man's sport.
Right.
She went out, she called his bluff. She went out and rounded up more sponsors than there almost was real estate on the car to put all the sponsors. So in their basement, a junior in high school, that's where my little racing career got started, helping build my aunt's car. And by the way, I didn't know the difference in a 3/4 inch and a 3/4 boat at that point in my career.
Perfect. So as you're there, what was the difference? You went from the stands to being in the pits. What was that like for you to finally be in with all the cool guys?
It was actually very, very cool. And because, I've always said, no matter what level I think you become interested in racing, it's a disease. It gets in your bloodstream, and there's no getting it out.
We talk about this all the time with almost everybody who comes on who's old school. It is like a drug, and definitely the camaraderie and the atmosphere, and absolutely the first time you go to Victory Lane, you're done.
Oh yeah,
You're done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And my aunt, I'm sure a lot due to our budget and our knowledge and all that. Even though it was a street stock hobby car, she really didn't have a lot of success, but it was still pretty cool. I'm now down there in those pits that I've been watching for 2 or 3 years with guys that pretty interesting to watch working on race cars. And I had went to work actually at a salvage yard.
Okay.
Auto recycling center, I like to call it,
Okay.
rather than calling it a junk yard.
Right.
And the guy that owned it, his name was Charles Finley. He sponsored a late model car
Got it.
that a gentleman by the name of Bobby Ray Jones out of Birmingham owned. A driver by the name of Richard Orton drove it. Well, Charles sponsored the car, and in one Friday afternoon, we got ready to close up. Charles said, hey, we're going to be open to noon tomorrow. He said, when we close up, I'm going to hop in the car and go up to Nashville and watch Bobby Ray and Richard run. He said, you want to go up there with me? I said, absolutely, absolutely. So noon came, we closed up to Nashville we went. And we got there and went down in the pits, and I'm kind of just meandering around with my hands in my pocket. And next thing you know, I see an opportunity to kind of maybe help push the car or maybe hold the backside of a boat.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm in there just helping them wide open. At the end of the night, they got ready to load up. I helped them load up and was getting ready to leave to come back to Birmingham with Charles. And Bobby Ray, who owned it, said, if you ever get tired of working on your aunt's car, you come on out there to Minor, Alabama. We'll put you to work. That's all I had to hear.
Right.
That's all I had
And
to
you're
hear.
how old at this
I was
time?
out there. I was probably 19,
Okay,
maybe
perfect.
18.
Got it.
I was graduated from high school
Okay.
now, and that's all I had to hear. I was out there Monday night, ready to go soon. In I don't know how many months, my routine was I had no life. I would go work at that junkyard, 8 o'clock, get off at 5, run through a drive-through, grab something to eat, out to Minor, about a 30-minute drive from the junkyard, work on that race car, sometimes all night long.
Oh, yeah.
Quit just in time enough to go home, clean up, and go back to the junkyard. And I did that week after week, month after month. Probably weighed about 140 pounds soaking wet, and but I was living life large and having fun.
And your parents that weren't interested in racing, what were they saying about all this?
just would shake their head.
It's just a phase he's
Yeah,
going through.
again, now
It's a
I'm out of
phase.
high school and I'm doing my own deal. I've got a job. I pay my own bills. I
All right.
wasn't living at home no more.
Okay, then
They were cool with it.
All right, they had to be there. So, who are some of the guys that you followed when you were sitting in the stands at Birmingham?
Well, I said my dad was not a race fan, but Talladega did open in 1969,
Yeah.
and I was about 10 or 11 years old. And after I kind of became interested in racing, I begged my dad till he finally said, okay, we'll do it. And I was probably maybe 13 or 14 years old. I got him to take me to Talladega. And I can remember almost the area we sat. It was between turn 4 and the tri-oval. It was kind of almost at the entrance of pit road. But what I loved about that, we got there early. I could look straight across over and watch these guys in the garage area. That's what intrigued me. Yeah, the racing was cool.
Yeah.
The racing was bad, but what intrigued me was watching the garage and then watching guys like Harry Hyde on pit road and Herb Nabb and Leonard Wood. Sterling Marlin was a jack man for his dad's car, Cuckoo Marlin.
Yeah.
And that's what intrigued me was watching that.
So, we used to have a saying, and unfortunately it's not like that so much now, where I always used to tell guys that would come in, when I started in the 90s, and I would say, just look in them stands. I said, there's someone in them stands that wants your job and can probably do it better than you. Just remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And what you're telling us right here, right now, is you're one of them guys. I was in the stands too at one point in
So was
time
I.
in my
Yeah,
life,
looking across.
and that's all you did. You wanted to get down in there. You wanted to go work. You wanted to do this for a living for whatever reason.
Yeah, I never, ever, even for 5 seconds, ever had a desire or an inkling to be a race car driver. That would probably not work out because today I'm the guy on the interstate, all the way over in the left-hand lane, and more than likely I've probably got my blinker on. So probably being a race car driver was not in my wheelhouse, but I
wanted to be in
definitely wanted
racing.
to work on it.
Yeah.
Definitely
Right.
wanted to work on it.
Like mine was broadcasting, covering it. I went from Daytona one year. Remember the aluminum grandstands in turn 3?
Mm-hmm.
I just went there. The next year was turn 1, like you could have drove out of pit road into our seats. And the following year was CBS Sports on pit road, seeing guys like you and Dale and Rusty. And I'm like, for a little kid from Buffalo, that's a big damn
Came
deal.
a long way.
I can still get goosebumps thinking about it. And the first time I went to Daytona, I snuck in my buddy's trunk for the Clash. I owe him $20. All right, from there. So what was your first big break to get up into, let's say, the big leagues?
Well, probably for 2 years, I did exactly what I just said. Worked night and day. I never dated. I didn't do anything but work at that junkyard and work on race cars. And that was absolutely it. And I knew that eventually I wanted to go to NASCAR. But I didn't know quite how to get there. And so the summer of 1980, working at the junkyard, we had a guy, he drove the forklift. Excuse me. And I stayed on him all the time about when he pulled the forklift up, drop the forks on the ground. He'd leave them about head high. And stayed on him about that. So July of 1980, I was working the counter by now. I'd done moved up in the old junkyard.
Okay.
I was no longer beating
I was going
yard.
to ask, did you get a promotion?
Yeah, I'm on the counter now. So
Hey girls, I'm on the counter.
somebody called about a part, and I bailed out that back door, and I centered that fork. Had a concussion, probably had 30, 40 stitches.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Geez.
So the doctor had said, you got to lay low for a couple of weeks. And so I'm at my mom's apartment, and I've read every magazine you can read. I've watched every soap opera you can watch. And there used to be a NASCAR newsletter that would come out every month. And on the back side of it was classifieds.
Oh yeah.
So I'm reading it. People would sell race cars and engines and haulers and whatever, buying, selling. I went down. The last article said, new NASCAR Cup Series team forming Greenville, South Carolina, looking for mechanics and fabricators. Call this number. It's interesting. What have I got to lose? So I called the number, and it was a lady that actually answered the phone. It was Bob Rogers, who was starting the team. It was his daughter, Dana Williamson. And we talked for a while, and ironically, she knew who I was because we had raced late models against her dad's late model team.
Okay.
Wow,
So
that
she
helps.
kind of knew who I was.
That helps.
So we talked for a while, and she said, we'll be back in touch. Excuse me.
Which we all know, like, yeah, okay.
I'm figuring I'm one of about 3 million people that's called
That's
this
done
number.
this deal, yeah.
And so life went on. So I would go back to work, a couple weeks later, and I got home. This was maybe about a month later. And I came home, and my mom said, oh, by the way, you got a call today from a lady in Greenville, South Carolina. She said she left her number. She said her name was Dana. So, okay, awesome. So I called her back the next day. This was late that night. I called her back the next day, and she says, here's what we'd like to do. We're coming to Birmingham to run the big Labor Day race with Don Sprouse, who was the driver, our late model. She said, we're going to run about 2 more cup races this year. They were running a handful of cup races with Don and 80. We're going to run a couple more cup races. We're going to run Martinsville and Charlotte. She said, why don't, after the race Monday night at Birmingham, why don't you go back to Greenville with us, work with us a few weeks. You like us, we like you, we'll see where this deal goes.
And how did you feel when she said that?
Like on cloud 9.
So
on cloud
okay,
99.
About what year is this?
This is August of 1980.
Okay.
So sure enough, it's the only time I've probably worked on one race car and actually was hoping for another one to win. Because I had worked on the car, Mike Alexander was driving.
Okay.
I had worked on that late model car all week long getting ready for this big Labor Day race. But when that hauler for Rogers Leasing Racing came through the gate, I said goodbye to everybody and walked down there and started helping them.
Okay.
And Mike ended up winning the race. Like I say, I was working on one car, but there was this part of me pulling for that 11 car to go win this race. It was over. I go back to Greenville. It wasn't 2 weeks. Bob Rogers came over to the race shop. He had a body shop and a lease company, and the race shop was right next door. And he called me baby boy. I think the reason he had 2 daughters, and I think
Well, you're all blonde
Well,
right at this time,
and I
right?
think
Because
I-
you're very fair
I had a
skinned.
lot more hair.
A lot
too.
more hair.
But I think I was the son that Bob never had.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, not that I embraced this baby boy nickname, but I knew it stuck and it wasn't going away for a while. So he came up there
Can't
and he
believe you
said,
just told everybody.
baby boy, he
I've
said,
never heard that in all the years
well,
I've
it's
known you.
me.
Go ahead.
40 years removed.
All right.
So he said, baby boy, there is no doubt we want you to go to work for us. He said, let's get through these next few races and you go back to Birmingham. We'll fly you back to Birmingham. You can get your stuff and come back. So we ran a couple more races, flew back to Birmingham. I had a 1971 green Pinto. And when I say green, close your eyes and think of the greenest green you could ever come up with. That was the color of Larry Mac's Pinto. When I
A total chick magnet. By the way.
Oh,
Sure, yeah.
absolutely. You couldn't fight them off.
Stick shift, probably.
4-cylinder.
Stick shift.
When I hooked the U-Haul behind it, before I put a damn thing in it, it started
Yeah,
dragging.
it said
around.
no.
No way. You ain't doing
So
that.
I still filled it up, my little bit of stuff that I had. Here's the interesting thing. My mom and dad looked at me and said, this is the craziest thing we've ever seen. You'll be back in 6 months. You'll be broke. You'll be hungry. We will feed you, but we're not bailing you out of debt. And as much as I respected my mom and dad, this was the opportunity I'd been looking for. And I knew this opportunity wasn't going to come along on a regular basis.
Right.
And I had to go try it. One other little funny sidebar story. I just needed somebody to tell me this was okay to do. A neutral person.
Right.
So I called our buddy Donnie Allison. And so he's the only Allison I
And
really knew.
were you acquaintance of him because of the
Racing against him in late models.
Okay, perfect.
So I called Donnie. He was out at his late model shop in Hueytown. I go out there, And I chased him around that late model car for about 30 minutes, and finally he stopped. And you know Donnie, when he talks to you, he gets about that close to you, and he wants to poke you in the chest while he's talking to you. So I finally stopped. He finally stopped, and he said, "What's up?" And I explained it to him. He looked at me and he says, "I tell you what, you need to do it,
Right.
but I'm tell you the other thing. You need to go find that checkered flag y'all won out there at Birmingham a few weeks ago, because it's going to be a long damn time before you ever see another one." And how right that man was. And ironically, spin it ahead to August of 1988, my first Cup win with Ricky Rudd at Watkins Glen. When Ricky took that checkered flag, Donnie Allison is the first person I thought about.
You remember what he said?
Absolutely.
Seriously?
Absolute. First,
8 years
person-
later.
First
Wow.
person I thought about was the poking in the chest in that late model shop. You need to find that checkered flag, because it'll be a long damn time before you ever see another one.
Donnie has an elegant way with words.
Oh yeah,
And-
and meanwhile he's that
Right,
close
right.
to you, he's spitting on you.
But he says it, and because he's Donnie, and like you go, okay. And it's funny how he's right.
He's spot on.
He was
right?
spot on.
Like,
He was
the,
spot
the
on.
cars we built at the garage shop, he came out and saw the Talladega. He goes, "You need to do this, this, and this." Okay, well, might have not. Took it to one test, called him up. He goes, "Did you do this and this?" And they said, "Nope." And they did that, took it to salt flats, and went faster.
And ironically, my second full year in '82, Donnie Allison drove that 37 car a few races. And I don't know if we were a contender to truly win Talladega, but we were running up inside the top 5 back in the days of glass windshields.
Yeah.
And the windshield caved in
Oh.
on it. We had to make a stop under green and change the windshield.
Put another glass windshield in.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, what was your first break when your first crew chief gig? You work your way up to that. It's not something you step into.
Yeah, you know, my first 5 or 6 years, and I mean, I was very flattered on some of the drivers and teams I got to work with. I mean, I got to work with David Pearson,
True legend.
2 of his last years. He retired at the end of '85, but I got to work with him in '83 and '84. Got to work with Tim Richmond. But it just seemed like the teams I was working for was on a wing and a prayer. In fact, the pattern I was starting to see, I'd go to work for a race team, and within about 6 to 8 months, the doors would close because of lack of funding. I mean, I worked with Mark Martin in 1982.
How much were you making?
It wasn't from my salary. It wasn't from my salary. But
JD Stacy.
no, this was actually Mark's rookie season
Okay.
in '82, a team that he
Yep.
owned his own.
Yep.
So I got to work with some neat, good people, but it just was not working. And I started having visions of what my mom and dad had told me,
How you doing?
but I wasn't going to give it up. So at the end of '84, I was working at the Pearson shop in Spartanburg, but everything there was owned by a gentleman by the name of Bobby Hawkins out of Travelers Rest, South Carolina. So in '85, when David took the Chattanooga Chew sponsorship to Hall Sellington for his final year, I was really the only employee in the shop that didn't have the last name Pearson. All of David's boys were there. I was the only one. So I still worked for Bobby, and we moved all of Bobby Hawkins' stuff back to Travelers Rest to a shop that was there.
Okay.
So I'm tinkering around and straightening and cleaning stuff up and polishing, and finally I went to Bobby and I said, "Okay, Bobby, what are we going
Yeah,
to
because
do?"
you didn't know where you were going.
I didn't come into this industry to polish chrome wheels and just sweep floors and
Right,
straighten stuff
right.
up. I said, "I know you told me you got a job as long as you want one, but where are we headed racing?" So we did a deal to run Butch Lindley some short track
Yeah.
races. Bobby gave me the green light. We had a couple of employees to build a double throwdown short track car, and we built one. And Butch Lindley, who probably was the best short track driver ever walked the face of the earth, was going to drive it. And we were going to run North Wilkesboro.
And this is Cup.
Yes, this is Cup. And we were going to run North Wilkesboro. And we were going to go test about a week before. So I called Butch. We were about a week out from the test, and we were actually building the car at Mike Laughlin's race shop, the chassis builder.
Yeah.
So I called Butch, and I said, "Butch, I need you to come down here, get fitted to the seat, the pedals, the steering, yada, yada." And he said, "Look, can you wait till Friday? I'm headed to DeSoto Speedway in Bradenton, driving down with my wife Joan and his daughter Tanya. I'm running Frankie Grill's late model car down there this weekend. I said, yeah, that's fine. So Butch came in, we got everything fitted. Off to Bradenton he went. I got a call about 1 a.m. Saturday night or Sunday morning that he had to be airlifted out of the racetrack.
yeah.
A trailing arm had broke and he had spun and his head had hit the wall. And Butch laid in a coma and passed away about 5 or 6 years later. So we made the executive decision out of respect to Butch to not even think about North Wilkesboro. But here we got this brand new short track car there. And I go to Bobby, what are we going to do? He says, what do you want to do? I said, well, Morgan Shepherd's a pretty good short track driver. And he really doesn't have a full-time ride. I said, let me call Morgan and let's see about running Martinsville.
So let me interrupt just for a second, because it seems like already now at this point, you're crew chief. Are you crew chief in this thing?
You could probably call
You know what I
me
mean?
that. I think
I'm
I was-
listening to you're making phone calls, you're calling drivers, you're kind of ramrodding the deal, right?
Well,
I mean,
I think that's a safe statement. I
Yeah.
was kind of Bobby's guy.
Yeah.
You know, when you got only you and one other full-time employee and
Right.
some guys helping you on part-time, I don't know that anybody really carries a title.
Right.
no, maybe not, and yeah,
But
'cause
yeah,
it's just-
I was Bobby's guy.
yeah, you're pretty much ramrodding
Yes,
this thing.
yes.
You know, you're telling me you're on the phone with
Ramrodded
Butch, you're on the phone
building
with
of
this
the
guy.
car and
Yeah,
everything else.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I call Morgan, and we go to Martinsville. And we roll in Martinsville with this brand new short track cup car on an open wheel trailer, I might add.
Perfect.
We qualified third,
Even better.
was running second, I think, to Jeff Bodine. About 200 laps in the race, and he came off turn 4 and blew a left rear tire. And at Martinsville, in the inside wall at the start finish line, there used to be an opening just wide enough to walk through. When he spun,
Found it.
it caught that left rear wheel opening in that opening, and this old light, and I mean light, short track car opened up like a can opener. It opened it up. It destroyed
Really?
it. Destroyed it. So anyhow, but I mean, my gosh, went up there and made some noise.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
And so we come back home. I go to Bobby. What do you want to do? He said, what do you want to do? I said, you know, Morgan's pretty versatile anywhere we want to run. I said, what do you think if we spend the summer building an intermediate car and let's go run some races at the end of the season? So we spent all summer building an intermediate car, went to Darlington, qualified in the top 15, blew an engine, went to Charlotte, finished 8th.
I'm going to interrupt you again real quick.
All right.
How many, so you say I know it was you, and I know you had to work, but how many guys did you have in that shop building these intermediate cars? And
Me and one other guy,
you and
but
Mike?
we did it at Mike Laughlin's, which helped
Okay.
the cause.
Okay.
Which
And,
helped
and
the
did you
cause.
maybe have some,
Had people
some
come in and help us at
some
night.
volunteers?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, had
Right.
people that helped us
Right,
at night.
okay.
So,
So
well, I guess got it. What do you remember your pay weekly?
I want to say I maybe was making about $400 or $500 a week,
Okay.
maybe.
I was going to say, what
Yeah.
what was your pay, what was your 401, and how was your insurance? Not.
No, I just felt
I
blessed to get that paycheck.
Right. And I asked that because I just thought when you said that because what people look for today and how it's changed.
Right.
Back then, you were like that. You were golden.
Oh, absolutely.
You were the
absolutely.
You could go to
kidding
Burger
me?
King and
I'm making
Dairy Queen.
You know, call it $26,000 a
I mean,
year.
I followed around a beer sponsor my whole life. Just so I got free beer, and Jerry Gunnerman's buying me hot dogs, and I'm good.
Oh yeah. I back then to work on a cup car, I'd work for food.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right.
as long as I could pay the power bill. So and then we go to Charlotte and finish 8th. But something happened between Charlotte and Atlanta, which was the last race of the year.
Yep, it used to be the last race. Yep.
The drag racer, Kenny Bernstein,
Yep.
was coming to the sport as an owner. He had a sponsor in Quaker State. He had
26.
Buick manufacturer support. He had already had Joe Ruttman hired as a driver. He just didn't really have any place to take it. No shop, no nothing. So one of the guys that worked for Bobby that kind of helped us, his name was Clyde Brookshire. He was in pretty thick with the people at R.J. Reynolds. And so Ralph Seagraves talked to Clyde and said, what do you think Bobby's going to do next year? He said, I got Bernstein. Bernstein was tight with R.J. Reynolds
Okay.
people, Winston. He said, I'm trying to help him figure out where to take this thing. So Kenny and Bobby, long story short, they met together and formed a partnership and called it King Hawkins Racing. But it only took about a week to realize Kenny Bernstein was a phenomenal businessman. Bobby Hawkins was a phenomenal businessman. Their philosophies was night and day.
Different.
It wasn't going to work.
Right.
So Kenny wanted to buy Bobby out. Well, what was very, very flattering is the only way Bobby Hawkins agreed to sell this program to Kenny Bernstein, he had to keep me employed for 1 year.
Wow.
He didn't say what capacity.
No, that's
You
good,
just
though.
got to keep Larry McReynolds employed for 1 year.
That's a good. That's a.
That's
compliment.
really cool that he took thinking of you and taking care of you.
Absolutely.
That was your 401 for the year.
Absolutely. Blown away. But I hope I had shown my loyalty to Bobby
Right.
as well. So we go to Atlanta. It's still kind of under Bobby Hawkins' umbrella, but actually Kenny Bernstein already owned the team.
Oh, okay.
And we finished 5th. Running 3rd and equalized the tire and ended up finishing 5th.
With Joe Rutman.
With Morgan Shepherd.
With Morgan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe's deal
Okay,
was
you
start
didn't start
to
yet.
86.
Oh, okay.
So here's where I got my break. And it took a little bit to get there.
That's all right. No, it's good. This is stuff a lot of people don't know.
Kenny kind of saw I was the guy. So he challenged me about putting this whole deal together. Let's get the cars built, get people hired, get equipment bought, do whatever you need to the shop. You know, I'm a busy man. I got to have somebody like you here. He also challenged me to hire a crew chief. And you know what? I was not offended by that. I mean, regardless of what we did in 85,
Right.
I've been in the sport for 5 years.
Right.
I was 26 years old, 27 years old. The closest I'd been to Victory Lane was walking by it on Pit
Yeah.
Road. That didn't offend me.
And Kenny Bernstein is actually telling you you're the team manager. It sounds like
Pretty
It's-
much.
Yeah, dude,
Or
yeah.
Pretty
as
much.
they call him now, competition director,
Sure.
right? But he wanted you to put the whole deal.
He
together.
wanted me to put it
26 years
together.
old.
Yeah.
So we come home from Atlanta and I go right to work on this stuff. I got my wife helping me with clerical work and booking hotel rooms and NASCAR license. And so I talked to Kenny Bernstein every single day. And he kind of, to some degree, gave me an open checkbook on hiring this crew chief. He said, I want a good crew chief. I want a top guy. I said, okay. So in the interim, I get cars built. We even go to the wind tunnel with Daytona cars. I get equipment bought. I get all these people hired. I get the tractor trailer put together, pit equipment.
Rim Oldsmobiles.
Buick.
Buick.
Okay.
Buick LeSabre, I might add.
LeSabre.
Which I think if we'd have cut the body off and put it on backwards, it would run faster.
Perfect. Good.
The poor LeSabre.
Oh, my God. Oh, what a nightmare.
So the crew chief
So,
starts.
anyhow, the crew chief, all that started. So we go through the month of December. We go through the holidays. I worked every day, including Christmas Day, New Year's Day. It was going to take it to get us there. So Kenny Bernstein and his business partner, John Dangler, they come to Travelers Rest. It was about the second week of January. And he said, let's go to lunch. And he said, kind of, give me an update on where we're at. I said, Kenny, I think we're in good shape. I said, we're testing at Daytona next week. Got 2 cars ready to go. We've already been to the wind tunnel with both of them. The Richmond car, pretty good shape. Rockingham car's coming along. That was race 2 and
Yeah,
3.
yeah.
I think I got everybody hired. We need to hire. I think I bought every piece of equipment we need. I said, but I'm telling you, Chief, I can't find a crew chief. I've talked to Gary Nelson.
Yeah.
I've talked to Dale Earnhardt.
I was gonna
I've talked to Harry Hyde. I've talked to Herb Knapp. I've talked to Jake Elder. But I said, and it's not the money. Nobody wants to move to Travelers Rest, South Carolina.
Oh.
It's 2+ hours from
Charlotte.
From
the
our
hub,
Yeah.
Charlotte, North Carolina. So him and John kind of looked at each other, and I'm sitting there waiting on his response on, okay, what's he going to tell me here? And he said, you know, John and I talked about this on the way down. He said, we know why you've not been able to hire a crew chief. And I said, you mind sharing with me? Because I have tried everything I know. I've done everything but sell my soul to the devil to get a crew chief hired for this damn thing, and it ain't happening. He said, we got the guy sitting right here that can do it. And I went, me? I said, are you sure? He said, I'm telling you, Larry, I've watched you. I watched you at Atlanta Motor Speedway handle that race team and handle pit road and the calls, the equalized tire. I've watched you almost single-handedly put this team together. You can do it. I said, okay, if I'm walking out on the end of this thin branch, you're going to hold my hand and walk with
I'm
me.
going to interrupt. Were you going over the wall?
I was a jackman.
I never knew that. You were a jackman?
I was a jackman.
Never
I was
knew
gonna
that.
say,
Never knew that.
I'm thinking about how thin this was. He had to be going over the
Okay,
wall.
all right.
Okay,
Never
great.
knew that.
So there was the
Never knew
break.
that.
And you know, Kenny Bernstein and I still talk 2 or 3 times a year.
Good.
He's still a friend, and no matter where else I go, what else I accomplish, I will always drift it back to that man taking a huge chance, with a major sponsor, major everything, on a kid that hadn't even come close to winning a race. And I'll always be indebted to him.
I remember you being in a Quaker State uniform. I don't know if I seen the hero card or what it was, but I remember that. So that I couldn't remember that it was Bernstein, but yeah,
King Racing.
perfect.
Yep. So that was the break right there. It took about 5 or 6 years to get there, and lo and behold, we crashed out at Daytona, Richmond, race number 2.
Mm-hmm.
We were within 1/4 of a lap of winning the race. We were running 4th at the white flag, and that's when DW, Bodine, and Earnhardt
Yes.
all piled up
Well,
down
yeah.
on turn 3.
Down on turn 3,
My
yeah.
man Ruttman, he cleared the wreck, but I don't know if he panicked or what. He forgot to turn or back off when he got
that's
to
right,
3
'cause he goes by
and
he goes,
spun.
that's right.
He got stuck in the mud. He finally got it fired and going. But meanwhile, Kyle, who was Kyle Petty, almost a lap down, came chugging by. He wins the race. We ended up finishing second. But I'm thinking, if it's finished second, this shit's pretty easy.
Perfect.
I'm telling you, Larry Mack is with us tonight, and these stories are great. I've learned more about you tonight, and I've known you for 20 years. Love it. Appreciate it. Okay, real quick, how did Davey Allison come together?
So I was with Kenny through a lot of thick and thin. You know, we won some races. I mean, Rudd came and drove the car in 88 and 89, won Watkins Glen in 88, won Sonoma, the inaugural Sonoma race in 89. Rudd moved on to Hendrick in 1990. Brett Bodine came along, and we won a race with Brett, won North Wilkesboro. Brett's only Cup Series win. But it's almost like, and I can't say it was anybody's fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't Kenny's fault. Kenny was willing to do whatever we needed to do. But it's like we just never could get all the pieces clicked in at the same time. We would get the engine going well. We would get the thing handling good. We'd have the driver hitting on all the cylinders. And we'd have aero issues. We'd get the aero straightened out. We'd have engine issues. I just knew that we were going to be able to win races, but I just never felt like we were going to be able to win a championship.
Right.
Never going to be a championship contender. And again, I can't sit here and say it was anybody's fault. It just wasn't there. We moved the thing to Charlotte to where we could get a good engine builder in place, Lula Rosa, but it just never clicked. Lula Rosa. So at the end of 1989, Davey and Robert Yates had caught wind that Ricky was leaving and that we had a new driver coming. And they were kind of struggling on the crew chief side of things. And a lot of people linked me with Davey because of the Alabama connection.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing there. I'd already moved on to the Carolinas before Davey really got started racing. Again, I knew Donnie Allison, but that was about the extent. But with the cars being parked in the garage area by points, it seems like the entire 1989 season, the 26th and the 28th were parked beside each other.
Okay.
You know, 5th and 6th in points, 6th and 7th. And I talked to Davey a lot. I talked to Rob.
I like what you said earlier when we were talking to you before the show started. You said, I'm just a crew chief that fell out of the sky and was Davey Allison. I mean, because what you're leading up to now is explains that, because people who don't know, and even myself, I didn't know all of this stuff. You know, you're fixing it so where we do know all this stuff.
Yeah, and Davey and I just became good friends, and then our wives became good friends. And even before I went to work on the 28 car, after happy hour on Saturday, two families would get together. We'd go find a mass somewhere on Saturday night, then we'd go out and have dinner together. Well, toward the end of '89, I think we may have been at Rockingham or something. Davey looked at me and he said, "What are you going to do next year?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I know Ricky's leaving. Brett's coming." I said, "I don't know." He said, "Larry, if you'll just come help me get this damn 28 car pointed, we will wear them out." He said, "We got more horsepower than the world has oxygen. Just come help me get it pointed." So I thought about it, and then Robert hit me up. And I'm a little bit ashamed to admit this, but we were at Phoenix, Arizona in 1989, second race from the end of the year. And I was in the 28 hauler, and I actually shook Robert Yates' hand and took the job.
There you go.
We had a week between Phoenix and Atlanta, and we were going to Atlanta to test. And I just wasn't feeling good about this deal. I just kept going back to what Kenny Bernstein had done for me, and I felt like that 26 was kind of my baby, and I just couldn't walk out on it. And I remember being at the Atlanta test, going across the street to a 7-Eleven, to a payphone, and calling Robert Yates and saying, "Robert, I know you probably think I'm a coward of a gentleman. I shook your hand, but I can't take this deal." And I explained to him why. And as upset as he was, he got it. He understood.
Sure.
Because I think Robert had been indebted to people along the way. So anyhow, I don't take the job. Jake Elder goes over there. We start the 1990 or the 91 season. I do the 90 season, and we win North Wilkesboro. And it was an okay year. We had some engine issues. The fourth race of the year, Atlanta Motor Speedway. Fourth or fifth race of the year. We sat on the outside of the front row, and again, we'd already had kind of an up and down start to this deal. And we sat on the outside of the front row for the Atlanta race, and they dropped the green flag, and we only got about 20 or 25 laps run, and it rained. We were running second or third, but in that 20 or 25 laps, the 28 car had wrecked, and they loaded up and went home. We restarted the race on Monday. We probably didn't get 30 laps run. That engine in that 26 car blew up from turn 1 to turn 4, I think. Unbelievable. So we load up, and my wife and 2 kids were with me. We loaded up in the minivan and back to Mooresville we head. And I bet you Linda and I did not speak 5 words to each other on the way home. It wasn't that I was mad at her. Sure. I'm just thinking, what in the hell are we ever going to do to get this deal straight?
Right.
So when I got home, I'm going to unload the van, and I told Linda, I don't want to talk to nobody tonight. I knew my man Bernstein was called, and Bernstein was a tough cookie to work for.
Well, I heard.
It didn't matter if it was car didn't drive well, got caught up in big wreck, engine blow.
It was
your fault.
I was the whipping child.
Sure,
Right. I was the whipping child. So I just didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it tomorrow.
Wow.
So I'm unloading the van out in the garage. I hear the phone ring, and Linda comes to the door and says, "Hey, Larry, telephone." And I went, "Really?" She says, she looked at me like, "Asshole, you may want to take this call." So I go to the phone, and it's Robert Yates.
They're good, aren't they? They're damn good, aren't they?
So
go ahead.
Robert's on the phone, and he said, "Larry, I know where you stand. I know your loyalty to Kenny, the 26 car, but I'm going to make a crew chief change in the morning."
Who was the crew chief?
Jake Elton.
Oh, so
But
Jake
Jake
he was gonna
had
send him
showed
out.
his butt
Uh-huh.
and refused to fix the car after they wrecked on lap 15 or 20.
Which was his nature to be ornery.
It was just Jake.
Yeah, got it.
God rest his soul.
That's it.
But Robert was going to fire him on Tuesday morning,
Right.
and either he's going to become the crew chief himself or he's hired.
Right.
And I said, "When and where do you want to meet?" And we met at the Waffle House on Sunset Boulevard, I-77. Met till 4 a.m. in the morning and struck a deal.
And you didn't want to talk to anybody.
I'm glad I took that call.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say this though, loyalty goes a long way, and that's a big deal.
Right.
and I'm glad you did it like that, because
I am too. I have no regrets.
You know what
No
I mean?
regrets.
It's like there's so many guys that just jump around in this sport, like, you know.
Yeah, I have
If you
no
want to-
regrets.
Yeah,
What made Davey so special?
Well, just raw talent.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest thing, he understood everything about that race car. 9 out of 10 times, if I went with a direction he wanted to go, a lot of times just his hard-headedness was going to make it work. But he actually made my job pretty easy, because the way he was brought up, the way he was raised by his dad, Bobby Allison, he understood everything about that race car, and just his talent and ability to drive a race car. And it was a really unique time of the schedule. There was Atlanta, and then very rarely we had 2 off weeks before the next race, which was going to be Darlington. And so I told Robert, I said, if everybody's cool, I really would like to go to Darlington and test. Just let's get our feet wet together.
right. And this is back when, folks, you could
Tested
go.
Oh my God, we
Tested.
tested more than we
Yeah.
raced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like an SAT test every weekend there.
So we go down to Darlington. I worked there about a week, and then the next week we went down there and tested. And first time out, he made about a 5 or 6 lap run, and I speak the absolute gospel truth. When he came in, and I lowered that window net, and we started communicating, it's almost like we'd been together for years.
Yep.
And I knew right then, this is going to be pretty darn special. In fact, I could not wait until lunchtime to go find a payphone. Again, we didn't have the cell
Right,
phones.
right.
I could not wait to go find a payphone to call Linda to tell her this is going to be really good.
Good.
This is going to be
You
good.
had the feeling, you had the feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
good.
I think that's the case. I think drivers and crew chiefs grow together, but I think the ones that really work really good, it starts clicking early.
Click
and that's what happened
Yeah.
with Davey and I.
And then we know what happened in the crash at Talladega with the helicopter and everything, and that had to turn your world right upside down.
Well, it did. The last thing you expect is to get a phone call working in the shop on a regular Hyundai, getting ready for the next race, which was going to be Pocono. And even though it was, closing in on 30 years ago, I still remember it as vivid as I can, like it was yesterday. Raymond Fox, my car chief, and I were on the setup pad right outside the offices, and we were working on the Pocono car. And Robert came to the door. This was 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was as white as a ghost. And it's almost like he almost didn't even know what to say, but he
Right.
finally got some words out that basically said, I need you to come in the office. And so I go in there, and you could tell he's got tears in his eyes. And it's like, what in the world? He said, Davey's in trouble. Well, my inkling of Davey's in trouble, who's he pissed off now? He's done said something to somebody and is didn't do us any favor. He isn't Allison.
Yep, true.
And then he said, no, he's crashed that helicopter. And, honestly, once we got through that, and we went to Birmingham and buried him on Thursday. Well, Robert and Carolyn, his wife, and Linda and I, we flew down there immediately that afternoon. Felix Sabatis was good enough to loan us his jet to fly down there. And, Liz kept asking me throughout the evening, do you want to go back there and see him? And I just had this feeling that he's not going to make it. And I didn't want to remember him laying on a table in a hospital
Right.
with tubes
Right.
out of every
Right.
orifice on his body.
Right.
I wanted to remember how he dropped us off Sunday night on our way back from Loudon when we landed in Charlotte, and he got on his plane and took back off. That's what I wanted to remember. If I thought me going back there would have helped in any way, absolutely. But I just knew in my mind. But honestly, after we got through that, there was a small moment. I didn't know if I wanted to move on. I go back to 1985, losing Butch Lindley.
Yes.
In a crash. Right. And then now, not only have I lost a race car driver that I'm having all the success with, that was minimal. I lost my best friend.
Yeah.
He was truly my best friend. Our families were so close. I mean, Davey and Liz and Linda and I, we had our two boys, Robbie and Brandon, baptized together. Linda and I are Robbie's godparents, and Davey and Liz are Brandon's godparents. And I just didn't know if it was worth it anymore. But I knew what that man would want us to do.
Sure.
If we didn't move on, if I didn't move on, he would look down and go, "Y'all are a weak bunch of dogs."
Yeah.
So
Those are strong words right there. I love it.
Wow. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
True
That's
story.
pretty good.
Because that's what this man,
Behind you. Yeah.
you know.
So then you took on Ernie Irvin. Was it who stepped in next?
Yeah, I mean that was July of '83,
Yeah.
and you know we didn't want to, and it it was so weird.
93?
Yeah, '93.
93, sorry.
Yeah, we came back from Birmingham after burying him, and we had made the executive decision to not go to Pocono. Now I'm sure Davey was pretty pissed about
Sure.
that, but you know what? He wasn't the one that was going to have to go to Pocono and deal with it.
That's true.
So we just wanted to regroup, and we didn't want to make any knee-jerk decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew Ford had to have a hand in it.
Yeah.
Texaco,
Sure.
Haviland.
Everyone is.
You know, it's not like you just
You couldn't just throw a guy in a
go
car.
and say, "Oh, here's your new
Yeah,
driver."
yeah, no.
So there was some time. So we took Robbie Gordon to Talladega. Lake Speed ran a few races for us. We went through several drivers, but then Ford got heavily involved, and that's when the whole Ernie Irvin deal started clicking. And finally, the Southern 500 was his first race, and it didn't take me long to realize that was going to be pretty special too. In fact, we went to Darlington with Lake Speed still with us because Ernie was still not out of his contract with Morgan McClure.
That's right.
He did not get out of the contract until the morning of the first day of practice at Darlington.
7,500.
And we ended up finishing fifth that day. And when I knew this was quite the race car driver, about halfway through the race, they come down the front stretch, which is now the back stretch, and he's behind Earnhardt in the 3-car. And he picked the rear wheels of that 3-car up off the ground, and I looked at Earnhardt, and he looked like an octopus in there. I didn't say a word, Aaron didn't say a word. And so after the race, again, we finished fifth, and I said, "Man, you were all over the back of that 3-car." He said, "Did you see it? I tried to time it where it was right in front of you." I said, "Oh yeah,
He had that
oh
much
yeah."
poison focus.
I saw
That
it.
was great.
But a sidebar story is, Robert wanted everybody to embrace Ernie Irvin coming and drive this car.
Right.
The Allisons were not really embracing it. But everybody had signed off. The team was good with it. And again, it didn't take long to realize he's exactly the medicine we needed.
Right.
That he was not going to replace Davey Allison. Nobody could replace,
no.
but he's what we needed in that race car.
Yeah.
Ford was all for it, Texaco Haviland. And as much as we wanted the Allisons to embrace it, they just wasn't sure Ernie Irvin was the guy they wanted to see in that 28 car, but we moved on. But when I knew we were okay with it is 4 or 5 races into the Ernie driving the 28 car, we won Martinsville. I mean, we didn't win Martinsville, we wore them out. We sat on the outside the front row, and I think we led 420-something laps. And when Ernie took the checkered flag, 2 things happened. When Ernie took the checkered flag, and he went around, he came down pit road, and that victory lane used to be all the way down at the end of what was then the front stretch pit road down in turn 1.
Correct.
So I walk out on pit road, and I see Ernie coming down pit road, and I see one person walk out on pit road and give that right there.
Oh, and that is. That's Bobby.
And I looked, and it was Bobby
That's,
Allison.
when he does that, that's his thing. Right?
And I went, you know what? He's okay with this.
Yeah.
And then when we got to Victory Lane, it was about 90-something degrees that day, hot, and Ernie was to give out. He actually sat down beside the car in Victory Lane, but unannounced to anybody, even Brian Vandercook, our PR guy, when Ernie got to Victory Lane and took his uniform top down, he had a T-shirt on that said "In memory of Davey Allison."
I think I remember that on TV.
Exactly.
So he knew what the responsibility.
Absolutely.
He knew
So
what he was doing.
Ernie was adamant. I don't want to wear the same helmet like Davey wore. I don't want to wear the same uniform. I want to start my own identity. I'm not here to replace Davey Allison.
Exactly. Imitate.
So everybody signed off, and it was good.
then you went through him crashing. It was Michigan.
August of '94.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's like just when you think
You're
you know, it's almost like I felt personally, but I also felt it for the 2018 that we were climbing this mountain.
Yeah.
And every time we'd almost get back to the top, there was this guy up there like this going, and would just shove us back down. You know, we won back-to-back races at the end of '93. We won Martinsville. We came back the following week and led 328 of 334 laps in Charlotte. It was
that's greedy.
it was not good,
Yeah.
and I knew it was not good. Now it was good from where I was standing, but I knew it was not good. And then we started off '94, and there was no question. Halfway through the '94 season, it was going to be the 3 versus the 28. I mean, we were winning races. We won Richmond, we won Atlanta, we won Sonoma, leading laps, sitting on poles, and by the time we got to August, again, the 3 and the 28 had yarded themselves
Yep.
on everybody, and you expect a lot of things to happen with a race car, but the last thing you expect to happen is on a Saturday morning in a 10-lap practice run, blowing a right front tire and hitting the wall.
I still remember that. I was like, what? And it was like, I felt for you guys, because here you go again, so to speak, and the team had to make another decision, and you were at the helm to help lead the next deal.
Yeah, you know, we didn't know nothing at that point. We didn't know if Ernie was going to survive this crash. We didn't know if he did survive it, would he ever be able to drive a race car?
Right.
And honestly, being a close friend of Ernie, I wasn't worried about him driving a race car. I just wanted to, once we knew he was going to survive it, you know, I wanted him to still be able to be a husband to Kim, and a dad to his kids. And fortunately, you know, he did recover fully from it.
So how did this come about with the guy behind you there?
So
We're going to overtime, folks. Just
We're
so
gonna
you
go
know.
into a little bit of
No,
overtime. How do we get to
I'm here.
We're
Yeah.
good. We waited a year. We've waited a year. You're not moving until we get all the damn stories.
We gotta at least get through Childress.
That's right, exactly.
So, '95, Dale Jarrett drove the 28 car,
Right.
Because Ernie was in the recovery, but we knew now he was coming back in '96, and he actually ran a few races at the tail end of '95, and it was an okay year with DJ. We won Pocono, but I think we were suffering from two things. I think Dale Jarrett, being the kind of meek guy that he is, he always kind of copped the attitude, man, those guys won races and led laps and sat on poles and up front all the time. I just need to figure out how to drive this thing. And I probably had a little bit of an attitude going, you know what? We were winning races and sitting on poles and leading laps. You need to figure out how to drive this thing.
Yeah, there ain't nothing wrong with it. It's you.
And we were on a highway to nowhere. And finally, we sat down after Charlotte in May. And I think we finally laid our feelings on the table, laid our cards on the table.
Do that, yeah.
And 2 weeks later, we go to Pocono and win the race. And it's no question. I finally said, you know what? I don't have Ernie Irvin. I got to make this car work for Dale Jarrett.
Right.
And Dale Jarrett goes, I'm not Ernie Irvin. I got to drive this thing like I know how to drive it and tell them what I need.
Right.
And once we finally got there, life was okay. Halfway through '96, Ford was hammering on Robert about starting a second car. And Robert always was anti-multi-cars. He said, when they build Victory Lane big enough for 2 cars, I'll start a second car.
I remember this. I remember that.
But finally, Quality Care and all the people at Ford put enough pressure on Robert that he agreed to do it.
Right.
And Dale Jarrett was not even on the list. I mean, there were drivers on the list. This guy was on the list. This guy was looking around.
Okay.
Believe it or not. You know what was the kink in the armor on him driving it? He wanted to drive the 28 car, not the 88. And it's like, no, that 28 car is Ernie Irvin's. And here's the other kink. Now, you'll chuckle over this. And he wanted $1 million to drive it. Well, today, what do they make? 10 or 12 million?
Right.
But $1 million.
Here's $1 million, just walk through the door.
Right.
$1 million in 1996 just was not in the budget.
Right.
So that didn't happen.
Because they were making 300,000 or something,
Yeah.
right? Or
And
500,000.
percentages of
whatever.
the
Right,
winnings.
Right.
I just said we're going overtime. One of our viewers goes, nobody's leaving.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. My wife said I'll make a great Baptist preacher. I never know when to quit talking.
No, you're fine.
So anyhow, I remember we were at Michigan in August, and we had led that thing all day long, and 30 or 40 laps to go, we dropped a cylinder. And Robert and I were in the rental car, leaving the racetrack, and I know we were getting down to the final hour, had to get a driver hired for this 88 car. And I said, Robert, we're not very smart. He said, what do you mean? I said, we got the right driver for that 88 car. He went, who? I said, DJ. Are you kidding me? Why would we let this guy go?
Yeah.
Once we finally decided that we can do this and we just need to work together, look at what we've done over the summer.
Right.
And so DJ ended up driving. But you asked me how it came about with the 3. So went through 96. Ernie comes back. We win, I think, between the two teams, I think we win 6 or 7 races. We win a couple of races with Ernie at Loudon and Richmond. Heck, the 88 car won the Busch Class, the Daytona 500, the Brickyard 400. We ran 1-2 at the Brickyard with the 88 and the 28 swapping the lead back and
that's
forth,
right.
closing it out. Unbelievable season. But as 96 was coming to a close, I was mentally and physically
Sure.
spun out. I think mentally, because of everything with Davey and with Ernie, I think Robert also came to me and said, you're still going to be the crew chief for the 28, but you got to put this 88 deal together. And so got all the people hired for that, got cars. I was almost like a crew chief / team manager.
Right.
And honestly, I wasn't having fun no more.
It's a huge factor.
Toward the end of 96, I started thinking, how in the world could I ever leave Robert Yates Racing? My gosh, look at what we've accomplished, but I'm not having fun.
Right.
I'm tired. And about that time that happened, him and RC came a knocking. And
Did you expect it, or was it out of the blue?
totally out of the blue.
Okay.
Totally out of the blue. I remember meeting at Atlanta during the lunch break on Saturday with Richard in his motorhome. And then Richard, Dale, and that whole 3 team wore me out on the Japan trip. It's almost like they were.
right.
It's almost like they were tag teaming me. It's
I
like
Richard
one
going,
would come up there,
Yeah.
and then one would leave, and another would come. It's like, guys, Robert Yates has
working.
no idea what's going
I'm
on
working
here.
it, yeah.
And I remember being at Suzuka and was standing kind of behind the race car, and in the middle of the day, Earnhardt comes and grabs me by the arm, and goes, "You gonna do this damn deal or not?" It's like, stop, just stop.
You gotta relax.
You gotta leave me alone. We went to the World Series, Linda and I,
Yeah.
at the end of '96, the Braves.
Right.
Big Braves fan.
Yep.
We're sitting in the outfield, and lo and behold, I look over there, and there's Kelly Earnhardt and her friend sitting next to us. And the whole time I'm looking, she's on a cell phone. It's like, who comes to a World Series, talks on a cell phone? And eventually she said, "Here, telephone." I went, I'm at a World Series game. And it was Earnhardt. "Hey, you gonna do this deal or not?" I said, "I'm
you
at
kidding
a
me?
World Series game.
This is
Leave
awesome.
me alone."
This is awesome.
But I ended up taking it.
Okay. And that was what year again?
Getting ready for 1997.
Okay, that's what I thought. So you did the first year with him.
And it was hard to leave that Bernstein
I
deal,
guarantee
it.
but you talking about tough.
Yeah.
Robert Yates was a good friend.
Right.
Ernie Irvin was a good
Right.
friend. That team was like family. I just needed a clean sheet of paper. I needed a fresh start.
And definitely you took one. So 2 things before you go into this. What was the best thing while working with him? Dale?
He made me where I'm pretty much bald today, if you consider that a good thing. The one thing about Dale is how genuine he really is. It really was. You know, I think people looked at him as this hardcore car driver, and when he buckled that chin strap, he was. But he was just a genuine guy. And you never questioned, was he giving you 100%? You knew if you wasn't performing, look everywhere but at that driver's seat. And we had a very trying 1997. We went the entire 1997 season, didn't win a damn race, which was hard.
Sure.
Very
and
hard.
And you were the new guy with him.
Oh.
And the fans were not happy.
Oh, I thought I was going to have to hire a bodyguard. I was getting death threats. I mean, I could not leave that racetrack with a uniform on. I had to be in street clothes. People were accusing me of sabotaging Dale Earnhardt's career. People accused Ford of sending me over there to sabotage the Chevrolet Camry.
You went from
have no idea.
frying pan to the fire.
Oh, but
But
at the end of '97, I needed a full-time bodyguard. One race into 1998, I
were
could have
the
run
hero.
for president.
That's
and
right.
got votes.
That's right. Absolutely.
So 98, so at this time, I'm working with CBS Sports. And so it was 96, 97, 98. And I remember you guys winning it, being in victory lane. And I remember when they do that line where they're all, so I'm in that line. I'm not supposed to be, but I'm like, well, hell. And Ralph Shaheen I'm working with and Dick Berg, they're off and running. I'm like, So I get in line just before he's about to go. He peels off and does the run.
You didn't
So
get
I go,
the answer.
I
You didn't
didn't
get the
answer.
greeting.
So I went running off that way, and I still have blades of grass. Remember we did the burnout? So as I was headed over back to the TV compound, I looked down and I go, well, I'm just going to grab a few of these. And I still have them in a baggie somewhere, but I have them. Tell me about the last few laps of that race.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the Daytona 500 in 1997, my first race with him. And I knew how bad he wanted to win that race. And we had a very up and down day that day. Pit crew was not hitting on everything they needed to hit on.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, because of the guy gripping that steering wheel, I looked up with about 20 to go and we're leading the race. And I remember 18 to go. I looked at Richard. I went, what do you think, boss? He said, been here way too many times. With about 11 to go, I knew what he was talking about. We were barrel rolling down the back straightaway. So 98, there just was something special about 98. We built that car in the summer of 97. Before the 97 season even ended.
You were building the
That
Daytona
thing had
500.
been in the wind tunnel 2 or 3 times. Dave Marcus had tested it at Talladega 2 or 3 times. And it just is something was special about that car. Dale's big deal about a Daytona car or a Talladega car, no matter what the stopwatch showed, was how many RPMs it lost in the corner. This car did not lose RPMs in the corner.
Okay.
If you'd have based it off wind tunnel numbers, you'd have went in the wind tunnel one time, you'd have went home and cut the body off. Because the drag was not as low as we were looking for.
Right.
But when you yawed it, the drag didn't go up. And I remember Dave Marcus testing that car the first time, went, he's going to love this car. This thing just feels free all the time. Not loose, just feels free. Doesn't lose RPMs in the corner. And I remember going to Daytona, and it's almost like we couldn't do any wrong.
Right.
We qualified inside the top 10. Didn't expect to sit on the pole. I knew where the drag was, we probably weren't going to be a pole contender. But we won the dual race, hands down. And every practice, the slicker that track got, the better that car was. And I remember he had started getting a stomach virus on Wednesday.
Ooh.
Wasn't feeling good. And we won the dual race, and he looked horrible in victory lane. And I went, "You're pretty sick, aren't you?" He said, "You have no idea. I just hope I can make it through Sunday." I said, "I got an idea." I said, "We got 2 practices tomorrow, one in the morning, one tomorrow afternoon, and we got happy hour Saturday afternoon." I said, "Let's skip the morning practice. You get some rest, maybe even go to the infield care center. We'll put our race engine in, and we'll run tomorrow afternoon just a few laps, make sure no leaks, everything good, no vibrations, and then we'll get pretty serious in happy hour." He said, "Best plan I've heard in a long time."
That's good to me.
So we take our time, we meticulously put the race engine in there, make sure everything's good. This was a beautiful plan until about 15 minutes before for the second practice on Friday.
Yep.
One of those good afternoon thunderstorms rolled in and washed that practice out. We're okay. We still got an hour tomorrow afternoon.
Got happy hour.
So Xfinity Series race runs. We're ready to go. Dale gets in it, leaves the garage area. He doesn't even get down pit road. Something's wrong with the engine. So he comes back around, pulls it in. Danny Lawrence, the engine guys, they raise the hood, looking spark plug wires. They change the spark plug wires. Danny looks at a few things, cranks it up. It sounds okay. Closes the hood. Dale leaves again. This time I get up on the hauler and I see him go through 1 and 2 on the backstretch. I don't know if he quite to high gear. I'm telling you, something's wrong with this engine. Comes back in. They start pulling valve covers and stuff off now. Pulled one of the valve covers off, and one cylinder rocker arm had broke and a push rod had bent. All the pieces were there, so they very meticulously, and I'm looking now, happy hour's half gone.
Yeah.
We still ain't even made a lap. So they very meticulously replaced that push rod, replaced that rocker arm, check all the settings out, fire it up. Dale goes back out there, makes a 20 or 25 lap run. Car's probably the best it's been all year. But I'm a big why person. Here we are. We know, based on speed weeks, the only team that can beat us is if we beat ourselves tomorrow.
Right.
Why did that engine do that? So Dale had a ritual. When he would finish his last run in happy hour, he'd get a tire sheet out on from Goodyear on pit road. He'd get out of the car. The guys would push the car to the Unical gas pumps. He would guide it. They'd fill it up with gas to get a fuel reading.
Right.
Then they'd come to the garage area with Dale guiding it. So here comes the car. I'm in the garage area waiting. Here comes the car, no Dale. Where's Dale? Man, he's out on pit road. It's like, God Almighty, we got to talk about this engine. We got to figure something out. Here comes one of the PR person. Where's Dale? Well, he's out on pit road with some fans. I went, well, he picked a hell of a time to mix and mingle with fans. So he finally comes, and he walks by me like I'm not even standing there. And he's got something in his hand, and he's digging through the toolbox. I walk over, Dale, what can I help you do? He said, I need some yellow glue.
I know what's going on.
So anyhow, he's got this penny in his hand. He's got yellow glue in the other hand. And he's already tried to put yellow glue on the penny, and it's running down his drive. I said, if you'll just tell me what I can do to help you, I will help you, and then we can figure this engine deal out. So I helped him glue this penny on the dash, which came from this Make-A-Wish kid.
Yep.
We go in the hauler. We get Spenny Clendenin on the phone, the chief engineer. We make the executive decision to change that engine. And we put a fresh engine in. But it didn't take long to realize in that race, like I felt all week, the only team that was going to be able to beat us is if we beat ourselves. And we had that caution with about 20 or 25 to go. I made the decision to go with right side tires only, which everybody did, which I'm glad I did.
Exactly, yep.
We won the battle off pit road. And then we raced back to the caution then. There wasn't no overtime or green white checkered. And I remember watching the monitor, and I saw the wreck coming back to 1 to go on the backstretch with John Andretti. And I knew the racetrack was cleared, and I kept watching the flag stand, and I saw the yellow flag come out. And Danny Culler, our spotter, I left it up to him. He said, got to bring it back to the white, champ. He always called him champ. Got to get it back to the white, got to get it back to the white. And he comes back to the white, and of course the white and the yellow raise at the same time.
Exactly.
But I'm thinking, what the hell can happen? I went, remember, you got to get back around here.
Exactly. Yeah.
We got 2.5 more miles, and he ran that last lap about as fast as he had in the race.
Right.
And once he took that checkered flag, it was a blur.
Sure.
It was a blur for me. I don't remember a lot about anything that went on. One other sidebar story. This is actually pretty comical. So when I went to work there, and we got ready to go to Daytona, Richard Childress had told me, he said, I just want to share a little something with you. Bill France Jr. has one of our radios. And every once in a while, under caution, he'll talk to Dale. It's pretty rare, but he will. I said, okay, no big deal.
Bill France.
Well, the whole 1997 season, I never heard Bill France Jr. So I totally had forgotten about it.
Okay, it makes sense.
So that caution comes out with 20 to go. We make our pit stop. We do our right side tires. And we win the battle off pit road, and we're coming to the 1 to go. And man, you couldn't have drove a 10-penny nail up my butt. I was so tense. And I'm there, and it's like, man, I wish this thing was over. I remember Dick Bergman coming to me to interview him, and he says, "What do you think?" I said, "I just wish this thing was 180 laps and not 200." And all of a sudden, the radio keys. "Hey, Sunday Money, this is Captain Jack. What's going on?" Captain, who the hell is Captain Jack? Who the hell is this on this radio? And Richard knows.
Exactly.
And Richard sees me that my career is about to come to an end in NASCAR because I don't know who the hell
And
Captain
you're getting
Jack
ready to
is,
tear him an
and I'm
ass.
fixing to cuss him out. And Richard's going, no. And he's going,
But with the sweet.
"Oh, Captain Jack."
Woo! Here you're on the Daytona 500 with Dale Earnhardt,
Oh.
and the biggest race there.
And all he said was, "Hey, Sunday Money, don't you think it's about time you finally snagged that big one?" And Dale said, 10-4, Captain Jack. I
Wow.
think we can do it.
Wow.
But yeah, my
For people-
career was about to end there.
Sunday Money was the whole name of Dale's boat,
Dale's
so
boat,
that's
yeah.
where he's coming from, like Helmet. But I just remember being there, and it was like deafening. The noise there was deafening. Like, I'll never forget that. But what did compare was 2004 when we won with Dale Jr.
Yeah.
when I was at DEI, and that was. But I'll never forget just the way it was and the way Dale was. You know, he didn't want to leave the track. He talked to everybody, but that's pretty special.
Yeah, and I knew how bad he wanted to win that thing, and he knew that that car was so good, drove good, fast, and the last thing he said to me before we buckled that window net is, you know, he had a way sometime was getting you by the collar and pulling you. He said, "Let's get down to the end of this thing. You just get me close to that guy leading this thing, his good day's gonna go bad."
So he knew it.
He knew, but he didn't have to worry about it because I don't know how many laps he led, but he led that thing about all day.
He was
I
down.
actually thought that the 12 doesn't get blocked by the 75. The 12 wins that.
And the 75 was a lap down.
Right.
Right.
God bless Rick
We were
Mass.
coming for you.
Yeah, God bless
And
Rick
you were,
Mass.
and you were with
That was me
Mayfield
and
then.
Mayfield,
Mayfield
yeah.
back then.
But no, it was good times.
All right, so one other thing that we got to ask, because, you know, it's obvious. So the racing thing's going, where did the whole broadcasting thing, where did that pop up? Not that I
Yeah.
was surprised, but you have such experience.
Well,
on
it was a surprise to me. Now, I did some part-time broadcasting for what was then T&M,
Yeah, remember that? Yeah.
Turner.
Yeah.
I even did some races for CBS at Homestead
Okay.
for some Xfinity Series races. I would do it on off weekends, Xfinity or trucks. I would even do some stuff on Saturday if we felt like we were in pretty good shape with our cut car. But I enjoyed it. You made a little bit of money, but I enjoyed doing it. But I never saw myself doing it for a living. I thought when they put me 6 feet under, my last words would be 4 tires next time. So I never
Let's go
saw
to
it
break.
happen.
Let's
So
go to break.
anyhow, as we all know, at the end of '99, the big TV package was put in place
Yep.
that was going to happen for 2001.
By Bray Carey.
And it was Fox was going to do the first half, NBC/Turner was going to do the second half. So that was announced, I think it was Homestead Miami weekend of the end of '99. So '99 season ends, and I remember exactly where I was, one of those vivid moments. I was in the body shop with a couple of fabricators and the body man. We were working on our Daytona car. This was maybe second or third week of December. Getting ready to go test at Daytona early January. And they paged me to the phone. And I come out of the body shop, and there was a phone right there on the wall outside the body shop. I had Bondo dust from head to toe. Pick up the phone, and this Australian-speaking man introduced himself as David Smith, chairman of Fox Sports. And he said, "I'm sure you're aware, we've put this new TV package together. We've watched some tapes of some stuff you've done.
Right.
We've already hired Darrell Waltrip as our driver analyst. We would like to at least have some conversation with you." I didn't even know what to say. And he said, "You know, we're not looking for an answer." He said, "We just wanted to plant the seed. Once we get through the holidays and everything, somebody will be reaching out to you." And I kind of forgot about it. I mean, I mentioned it to Linda that night when I got home, and it just kind of became an afterthought. So sure enough, the 2000 season gets going, and a gentleman by the name of Bill Brown, another executive with Fox, reaches out to me and said, "I understand you had a conversation with David Hill, and what we'd like to do, if you would be susceptible to it, is we're going to be in town the week of the Coke 600 during the Xfinity Series race, if you can break away, we're going to set up a little makeshift booth in the Speedway Club. Nobody will see you. They're going to be curtains and everything. And we'd like for you, and at that point it was Rick Allen.
Okay.
Rick Allen,
Yeah,
you, and DW to do 20, 30, 40 laps Xfinity Series race. So I snuck around after morning practice, and we were pretty good shape with the 31 car, and went to the motorhome and changed clothes, got on the golf cart, went to the Speedway Club. We did 30, 40 laps. It went smooth. That was cool. It was fun. Seemed like we flowed well. DW and I, ironically, DW and Mike Joy and I actually did an Xfinity Series race together for Turner at Phoenix the latter part of 1999.
Okay.
So little did we know where that was going to take us.
Right.
So anyhow, I do this, and about 2 or 3 weeks later, Bill Brown calls and said, Larry, we liked what we saw. We would like to have a conversation with you. The good thing is the money was almost a lateral move.
Right.
In fact, I was probably going to give money up by going to Fox because I was no longer going to have that manufacturer car to drive around.
Oh, yeah.
Fox didn't offer any kind of insurance or incentives for winning
'Cause
races
your
or any of those
contract-
things.
Bonuses,
your contract-
Yeah, so it was, but I was glad it was kind of the same. That way I could lay that aside and not let that be a factor.
Sure.
So my wife and I wished I had just $1 for every hour we sat at our kitchen table weighing this deal out. And finally Fox is calling me latter part of July going, we got to have an answer. And I said, give me 1 more week. So I finally made the decision I want to do it. There was two or three reasons I went ahead and made the decision to do it. I felt like if I didn't do it, I would always look back over my shoulder going, what if?
Yep. True.
And because this was not like a crew chief where there's 40 something of them,
Right.
there's probably only going to be 2 crew chief analysts. And if I don't do it now,
Right.
it may never come back to me.
Again, yeah.
And you know what? If I go do it and I don't like it or they don't like me, they were offering me a 2-year deal, I can go back.
Yeah.
You know, how many times do we see that with coaches and
Yeah,
Sure.
everything
yeah.
else?
Players.
So I made the decision to do it. But
Uh-oh.
there was one other little snag. I still had 2 more years on my contract with Richard Childress Racing.
Yeah.
And Fox had already said, we don't buy anybody out of
Right.
contracts. When you come to us, you have to be 100% squeaky clean. I'd already beat Richard up pretty bad on this contract because you gave me Skinner, damn it, you're going to pay me.
Which totally makes sense.
So-
yeah.
2000 was the first year, so I still had at 01 and 2. So we had the off week between, I think it was Pocono and Indy. And I went up to the 3 shop, Sandra, Richard's assistant. I said, I need to sit down with Richard. She said, Larry, he's in Montana for the week. I said, look, when he gets back, before we go to Indy, him and I got to talk. So sure enough, about Monday or Tuesday, she called me down the shop. She said, why don't you come on up here? Richard's in his office. So I go up there, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to ask how Montana is. I'm not going
Right.
to ask how Judy's
You're gonna
doing.
lay it out.
Just lay it down. So I walk in his office, and I laid it out. And it was like you could have heard a pin drop. And all of a sudden, that man's face got about as red as the red on that sign. I went, holy crap, this guy's going to come across the desk at me. And I'm about ready to say, Richard, forget I ever came up here. I'm
Yep.
all in with you. I'm going to go back down there, call the Fox people, tell them it's not going to work. He said, no. He said, you know what? I'm not happy about this. But he said, I can tell you're very sincere on why you want to do it. And he said, you know what? I'm going to live with it. I went, that was easy enough. He went, but Mr. McReynolds, you and I have a contract. I went, oh God, here we go. I'm about back to the point again. Richard, forgot I ever came up here. I'm going back to my office, call Fox. He said, no, things can be negotiated. I went, I bet they can. So he said, I tell you what, here's what we're going to do. As we know, when we get to Indy on Thursday, as tradition, both teams are going to go to St. Elmo's
Oh, yeah.
and we're going to have dinner.
Oh, yeah.
He said, here's how we're going to work this deal out. RCR will buy the meal, just like always. You buy the wine,
Right.
and we'll call this deal even. I couldn't get out of that damn office fast.
I have been in the wait a minute. I have been in the wine cellar at Epic, and you can go deep there if you want.
It was quite okay.
Okay.
It was quite okay.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I've asked the price of some of the bottles.
This was a
There's
hell of a lot-
Rothschild.
hell of a lot-
There's a Rothschild in there.
There
It's
was-
worth 5 digits.
Yeah, we didn't go that
Okay,
deep,
I'm just
but,
letting you know.
but it was a hell of a lot cheaper than what
that's
it could have been.
All right. Gee, when I went to him resign, he didn't offer me anything like that. That's right. So you did the broadcasting. So I have 2 favorite moments with you. Well, not favorite, memorable. All the wins and everything like that. What was the time when, well, I don't know what team, the car was hauled into the garage,
Oh boy.
and you did not like how the tow truck company was handling your car. Do you remember that?
Well, let me start off with, do you remember the song that was made, Where Were You on 9/11?
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
I know exactly where I was.
Uh-huh.
I was in an attorney's office in Birmingham, Alabama, giving my deposition on what I had done that day at Talladega.
It was a Talladega. Okay,
Yeah.
guys.
So what had happened, my man Skinner,
Yep.
he felt like if Earnhardt could make the pass in the grass work, then he could make the pass in the grass work. Well, on the backstretch of Talladega on lap 5, it didn't work too good. We took out about a fourth of the field.
Yep.
In fact, it was so bad that they were lined up in my pit box, and I went, look, if you want to kick my tail, you're third in line. There's 2 in front of you right now. So anyhow, our car was not damaged.
Yeah.
He just caused the wreck.
Right.
We only had 4 flat tires. So a wrecker picked it up with Mike still sitting in it, and he's going to bring it back around to us. And Mike screamed at me, he's killing the car. Because what would happen, the wrecker driver would go and then slam the brakes on. And the car just kept hitting
smash
the
the
back
back.
of the
Yeah,
wreck.
that's right, yeah.
And by the time it got back to us,
It looked like you were
it
in a
looked
wreck.
like it had run 50 miles an hour into a brick wall. So they pull it in the garage area, and this little bitty wrecker driver, even shorter than you, he jumps out of the
Okay.
right side of the wrecker, and he can't quite reach the hoop.
Can't unhook
Yeah.
it.
So what does he do? He jumps up on the ductwork, falls down through the ductwork, and kills what little bit's left there. I had enough. I yanked him off that car and threw him on the ground and told him to get his butt back in that wrecker and not even touch that 31 car again. Well, he sued me to the
Yeah.
tune of $30,000
That was it?
for back injuries.
Okay.
And 9/11, I was sitting in an attorney's office, had to drive the damn rental car back to Charlotte that night. And
Yeah. I just remember you grabbing him and throwing. Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, and they called me to the NASCAR hall after the race, Gary Nelson,
Yeah.
and he said, "So tell me what happened in the garage area." I went, "What?" He went, "You don't remember?" He says, "Let me show you."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they
Oh,
had
yeah.
it on video.
Sure, of course.
I said, "Oh, that."
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, it was, I don't want to say it was, but
He was being disrespectful to my car.
it was well understood. So before we wrap up, I have one favorite story with you. I've known you for 20 years. You've always been good to me. You've always been very good. I'm gonna say a great friend, but someone I can talk to and call if I get in a jam. So I'm on MRN Radio. I'm finally making my debut. 14 years of trying to get in there. We're at Nashville Super Speedway. It's the Xfinity race. I'm nervous as all can be all week. I'm working at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, kind of doing this on the side because they weren't using me a lot. And there I am, and you and Dick Bergen, who is my broadcasting hero in a lot of ways, Uncle Bergie. I don't know if you guys sensed I was nervous or you just wanted whatever, and you called me over and we sat down at this little like table, almost like you'd see in like a grade
I
school.
do remember that now.
And it was
I did until
multicolored
you said
and that, and it was
yeah.
like had these whole, and I'm sitting there like, so like, hey, we want to talk to you. So, okay, wow, Larry Mack and Dick Bergen want to talk to me. This is wow, oh, boy, this is great. And I go over and I sit there and I got my notes and they go, no, just put those away from him. And I go, yeah. And they're like, hey man, you know you're making your MRN debut? I go, yeah. And they said, are you excited? I said, yeah. I said, I'm working hard towards this. It's something I wanted my whole life. And they go, okay, you got your notes? Yep. You know what you got to do? Yep. You got all that? Yep. Yep. Okay. Well, we said one piece of advice for you. I go, and I lean into both of them. I go, what's that? And they both go, don't F it up. And they get up and walk off the table and leave me sitting there.
Best
Like,
advice we can give.
I was like, you bastards. But you know what? In all honesty, it totally calmed me down and made it good. So I do remember that one.
I do. I didn't remember the advice we gave you, but
don't fit out. And You both set the table, and you both got up and walked off. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be okay.
So I don't know if y'all have to pay a lot of extra for time we use up.
No,
There was
that's
a funny thing that happened that weekend at Nashville. So not only did we cover the Xfinity Series race on, I think, Sunday,
Right.
there was a huge all-pro late model race on Saturday. And we covered that race. And I'm in the booth. And, again, on Turner or TNN or whatever. And Sterling Marlin's son, Stedman Marlin, was in the race.
Yep.
And we wasn't 10 laps into the race. You'll love this. We wasn't 10 laps into the race. Stedman kind of spun down in 1 and 2.
Yep.
And I mean, it was just kind of one of those low, lazy spins. And he just kind of went up and kissed the rear of the car against the wall. Caution comes out. Stedman comes around, comes down pit road. A couple of guys go to the back of the car and working on the rear bumper.
Right.
Meanwhile, 2 guys go to the front. And carbon fiber hood with hood pins all the way around, they pull the hood pins out, take the hood off. That was an interesting move. So didn't think nothing about it. Stedman goes on, finishes his race. I don't know where he finished. So the next morning, I see Sterling he was going to run the Xfinity Series race. I said, all right, Marlon, what's the deal on the late model car? Y'all figured something out. I said, he kisses the wall with the back of the car.
Right.
You come in, do a little repair work. You take that hood off, and it's gone. He says, I'll tell you what I figured out. That damn thing's $450.
I knew where
he
you were
tears
going
one up
with that.
about every week. He
Yeah.
said, that was a good chance to get that thing off there.
I knew exactly where you were going.
Save some money on it.
Yeah.
Sterling probably still has Savco per diem checks he's not cashed. You're talking about tight.
Oh yeah, that guy was something else.
He squeaks when he walks.
You remember we went to the Race Fans Beach Bash in the Bahamas, and he and Hornaday at 9:30 to 10 a.m. They were downstairs by the pool with big coolers of Coors Light.
Oh, yeah.
And if you didn't get there early enough, you were not getting. But yeah, he would always say, "Hey man, you give me drinking all our beer." I'm like, "Stedman, how much you pay for it?" Oh, that's true. That's true. We paid a lot for it. And Hornaday, hey Larry, I just want to say, first of all, thanks for finding
This was fun.
Yeah,
this
thanks
was
for
fun. This was
we
fun.
have heard stories from you that I have known you, I never knew, and thank you for doing this.
No, it was fun. I'm
Yeah.
glad we could put it
Yeah.
together here,
Good.
especially during the off season.
Yes. We were going to talk about the new car, and we didn't have to.
Nah, don't worry about it. We're fine.
Maybe
We're
next
good.
time.
We're good. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
My
And,
pleasure.
if you guys ever need filling, Warren and I are totally available.
We got you. We got
Yeah.
you covered.
Should
All
we
right.
say it?
Yep.
Good night. Cheers.
Cheers.
Say good night, Dick.
Good night, Dick.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year's. We'll see you next year. Thank you. Hey, everybody. This is Tim Packman
Warren Brosell,
for Pub Table Races. We want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas.
and a Happy New Year.
And you know what? We want to say thank you for your viewership, for being part of what we're involved with. We love so much, and we hope you have as much fun watching the show as we do. Bring it to them.
And drinking.
Here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.